بسم الله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وبعد. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again, making it possible for us within our midst, our teacher, Ustadh Raha Batts, حفظه الله ta'ala, to benefit us with the continuation of the commentary on Kitaab At-Tawheed of Shaykh Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahaab, Sulaiman At-Tamimi رحمه الله تعالى. فلتفضل أستاذنا الفاضل بارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خيرا.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. We continue with our study of this book, Kitaab At-Tawheed, the Shaykh Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahaab, rahmatullah, and we are still within the chapter centered around whoever actualizes Tawheed, dakhala jannah bighayri hisab, went to the paradise of Allah Ta'ala without any hisab. And this next narration that we're going to come into, we're going to break its explanation down into two lessons, inshallah ta'ala. We'll take a portion of it in this lesson and a portion in the next lesson. And you're going to see why once we get to the commentary of Shaykh Ubaid Al Jabirī, alayhi rahmatullah. So this is the narration that comes on the authority of Hussein ibn Abdul Rahman, who said, Kuntu anda Sa'id ibn Jubair. I was along with Sa'id ibn Jubair, Kawkaba alladhi qada al-bariha. He said, which one of you saw the shooting star last night? Qultu ana, the narrator said, I saw it. Thumma qultu, then I said thereafter, Ama inni lam akun fi salatin. He said that I did not see it because I was praying. Walakinni ludirtu, but I had been stung. Qala fama sana'ta. Sa'id then said, what did you do about being stung? Qultu irtaqait. He said that I performed ruqya upon myself. Qala fama hamalaka ala dhalik. He then said, what led you to do this? قلت حديث حدثناه الشعبي. He said, a narration that we have heard from Sha'bi. قال وما حدثكم. He said, and what did Sha'bi narrate to you? قلت حدثنا عن بريرة بن الحسيب أنه قال. He said that he narrated to us from Burayda ibn Husayb that he said, لا رقية إلا من عين أو همة. That there is no ruqya except from the evil eye or huma being to be stung by a poisonous animal. قد أحسن وقال قد أحسن من انتهى إلى ما سمع. He said, meaning Sa'id ibn Jubayr said, that he who stopped at that which he has heard has done well. This is the portion that we're going to take in the sitting, inshallah ta'ala. As you see, as Shaykh Ubaid, he explains, and we're going to reiterate this point in its place, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that which comes thereafter, some of the scholars hold it to be another athar. It is another athar. Even though it is connected, they look at it and view it as another athar, a separate narration. Again, I'm going to reiterate and repeat that the portions are connected one to another. But some of the hadith scholars view it as a whole another athar. You're going to see why. We will at least read the second portion, inshallah ta'ala, even though we don't go through its explanation, inshallah. So Ubaidi says, Al-Husayn ibn Abdul Rahman. Al-Husayn ibn Abdul Rahman, the narrator, he is Abu al-Hudayl al-Sulami al-Kufi. Abu al-Hudayl al-Sulami al-Kufi. Thiqatun. He was trustworthy in his transmissions. And a subtle point that we want to mention is the benefit that we likewise have heard from Shaykh Ubaid Al Jabirī, in which he explained when that from the principles of Salafiyah is that all of the Sahaba have adala with us. Every single one of the companions are considered to be trustworthy. There's no such thing as an untrustworthy Sahabi. Now, so therefore, when we are looking to verify the authenticity of a narration, then we are to look below the level of the companion. So we start examining from the tabi'i, and we move forward from there. Look to the tabi'in and so on and so forth, whoever may have heard it from that tabi'i. Then we look down the line until we get to the narrator of the hadith or the hadith collector. But we are to examine the isnad below the level of the companion, because once we reach the companion who narrated the hadith, then we have to look no further. We have to look any further, because all of the companions have trustworthiness with us. And so he mentions concerning this narrator, Hussein ibn Abdul Rahman, who is known as Abu Hudayl al-Sulami al-Kufi, and we find him to be thiqah. He is trustworthy. Mata, he died in the year 136 after the Hijrah. وهو ابن 93 سنة. And when he died, he was 93 years old. فَالَذِي يَظْهَرُ أَنَّهُ وُلِدَ فِي سَنة. That which is apparent is that he was born in the year 43 after the Hijrah, during the Khilafah of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, رضي الله عنهما. فهو تابعي جليل. So therefore he is a noble and eminent tabi'i. فهذا السياق يشتمل على أثرين. And so this context here, this version, it contains within it أثرين, two narrations. Now, mind you, I mentioned to you that the other portion, which we're going to take in the next sitting, is a separate narration. So now, we mentioned to you, scholars deem this to be 3 narrations in total, while others consider it to be 2. So we look at if we look at this narration here, that which comes from Hussein ibn Abdul Rahman, who said, I was along with Sa'id ibn Jubair, who said, which of you saw a kawkab? Which of you saw a shooting star last night? I said, I saw it. And then he said, what made you do, or rather he said that the reason that I saw it was not that I was up praying, but rather I had been stung. And so Sa'id then asked him, what did you do about being stung? He said, I performed ruqya upon myself. And then he said, what led you to do that? And then he the other narration that he heard from Ash-Sha'bi, that which you heard from Ash-Sha'bi, is being the second narration. And then the third narration, it would be that which we're going to take in the next sitting, inshallah ta'ala. At any rate, 3 narrations here. So this portion here contains 2. وهو السياق المذاكرة ومدارسة, and you have that the salaf, they would sit and hold gatherings for the purpose of mudhakara, reminding one another and review over some knowledge-based issues, and likewise mudarasa, studying the affairs of the religion. وَسَلَفُ دَرَجُوا عَلَى هَذَا, and the salaf, they were consistent upon this, upon holding gatherings of dhikr, gatherings of study, gatherings of review of the affairs of knowledge. And this is likewise a methodology which we still have with us up to this day. That we hold the likes of these gatherings either in the masajid of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, or sometimes the gatherings are held inside of houses and homes. Sometimes they're held in other places. And in this day and time, we hold the likes of them even online. Gatherings of dhikr, gatherings of knowledge. So Shaykh Ubaid mentions فإنهم يعمرون مجالسهم سواء كانت في المساجد أو في البيوت بمدارسة العلم ومذاكرته. That they would hold gatherings. They would hold gatherings, giving life to these gatherings by way of knowledge, whether they be gatherings in the masajid or even inside of the homes and houses of the people, by way of reviewing and studying these affairs of knowledge and going over them. ولا سيما إذا كان ما يستدعي ذلك, especially if there was something that called for that. meaning an issue arose, and therefore the issue had to be discussed. So therefore you have an issue that called for that. Maybe a question was asked. Maybe someone saw an opportunity to bring a benefit and the likes of that. Especially if something called for that and necessitated that. كما هو واضح من سياق القصة, as is clear from the context of the story. We find within it a situation that one of the tabi'een mentioned that he had been stung. And so Sa'id asked him what he could do about being stung, and so on and so forth. And it's brought about what? A narration. It brought about a narration from a Sha'bi leading up to Burayda ibn Husayb. Shaykh Ubaid says that وهذه القصة تشتمل على فوائد عدة. Now this story, it contains a number of benefits. It contains a number of benefits. We want to look at these benefits, inshallah ta'ala. الفائدة الأولى, the first benefit, حرص السلف رحمه الله عليهم على الورع, the diligence of the Salaf upon piety, upon wara. And from here, we understand this to mean refraining from being praised for something which they did not have within them. Shaykh Ubaid says that, ومن ذلك, from that piety which they have, أن الواحد منهم لا يحب أن يذكر بما ليس فيه, that they would not like to be praised for something which they did not contain within them. They didn't like to be praised for things which they didn't do. Hold that from the characteristics of the ahmaq, of the foolish person, is that he would love to be praised. He loves to be praised, even if that praise is a lie, even if that praise is something which he did not contain within him. And he hates to be criticized, even if that criticism is regarding something that he actually has within him. This is from the signs and characteristics of the idiot, of the foolish person. But the Salaf, they did not like this. They did not like to be praised for things which they did, even much less things which they didn't do. And so we find one of the examples of this inside this narration. And it is that Hussein, he says, Ama inni lam akun fi salatin. As for myself, I was not up at night to see that shooting star because I was praying. Now, he says, وَالْبَاعِثْ لَهُ عَلَى هَذَا فِي مَا يَظْهَرُ لِي وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. The reason why he said this, based upon what is apparent to me and Allah knows best, أَنَّ الْكَوْكَبْ سَقَطَ آخِرَ اللَّيْلِ, is that star, it fell during the last portion of the night, or somewhere near to it. And whoever would have seen that would have had to have been up in the last portion of the night at the time we're in, people who are normally praying. And this would have to be the result of either being sick or praying the salah, praying the night prayer. And due to this, Hussein, he says, Amma inni lam akun fi salatin. He says, I was not up because I was praying. However, I had been stung. إذن أبان هنا عما جعله يسحر الليل حتى يرى سقوط الكوكب. So therefore, here he is clarifying that which caused him to stay up at night in order that he was able to see that star. Some of the ulama, they mentioned concerning this narration is that he actually was up praying. He actually was up praying. However, he had also been stung by the skull he was praying. And so he said this because he did not broadcast his good deeds. So he mentioned the story he can conceal the fact that he was actually praying. So he just said that, I was not up because of the prayer. I was up because I had been stung. This is because the Salaf, they were individuals who were diligent upon the night prayer. As the night prayer is from the characteristics of Ahlul Jannah, especially Ashab al-Hadith, especially Ashab al-Hadith. Right? For this reason, some of the Salaf, they would not like to accept narrations from an individual who consistently missed the night prayer. Uh, the second fa'idah, is within the statement of Sa'id ibn Jubair, فَمَا صَنَعْتَ. What did you do? What did you do? Meaning, what did you do about being stung by that scorpion? وهذا تنبيه إلى أنهم متقرر عندهم أنهم أعني التابعين أن اللدغة لها علاج. This indication that the tabi'een knew that there were from being stung. There were treatments from being stung. واللدغ هو اللسع من ذوات السم. And اللدغ, this is being bitten or pricked by poisonous animals, whether it is a scorpion, whether it is a snake, or whether it is other than that. Something which contains poison, if it stings an individual and poisons them, then the word in Arabic that is utilized to indicate that is al-ladgha. Now, and so he asked him about his method of treatment. I mean, what did you do to treat yourself when you were stung by the scorpion? Husseini said, irtaqaytu. He said, irtaqaytu means raqaytu nafsi, that I perform ruqya upon myself. I perform ruqya upon myself. The third fa'idah is within the statement of Sa'id ibn Jubair, ما حملك على ذلك. What led you to do that? It's an indication that anything that is said or done within this religion, it requires dalil. It requires dalil. And this methodology of requiring dalil for actions in the Deen of Islam, it is not a new methodology. People try to say that this is something which, you Salafis are always worried about, where's the dalil for this, where's the dalil for that. This methodology, it was handed down to us from our ulama, who got it from their teachers, and so on and so forth, all the way back to the Salaf, all the way back to the Salaf themselves. They would require dalil for statements, for actions that are attributed to this religion. So he asked him, what led you to do that? What was your evidence? Why did you make ruqya? Because ruqya, it is a treatment by way of the Kitab and the Sunnah, by way of what is coming in the Kitab and the Sunnah. And thus it requires dalil. Thus it requires a dalil. ذلك أنه متقرر عندهم أنه لا بد من دليل. This is because likewise it is affirmed with them that it is a must that one have evidence. وهذا تنبيه إلى أن الرقية منها ما هو مشروع. This is an indication that from ruqya there is that which is legislated. ومنها ما هو ممنوع. And from it there is that which is prohibited. As for that which is mashru', that which is legislated, it is that which is done by way of what has come in the Quran and the Sunnah. This is from shurut, its conditions. It must be done by way of what has come in the Quran and or the Sunnah. Another of its conditions is that it must be in the Arabic language. It must be in the Arabic language, as the scholars have affirmed. As performing ruqya in other than the Arabic language, it can lead possibly to polytheistic statements and the likes of this. So therefore, the ruqya, it must be in the Arabic language. Likewise, from the conditions of ruqya is that the raqi, as well as the one who the ruqya is being performed for, must both believe that the ruqya is only a means, and that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He is the one who actually provides the cure. The ruqya itself is a means, and Allah Ta'ala is actually the one who provides the cure. These are amongst the conditions for a ruqya al-shar'iyya, the legislative ruqya that is mashru', that is legislated. As for the ruqya that is mamnu', that is prohibited, then it is that which is done by way of polytheistic statements, by way of summoning and calling upon the jinn, and that which has in it, or it is done by way of other than what is coming in the book and the sunnah. Uh, the opposite of that which we have mentioned is the ruqya that is mamnu'. And this is something which will come in its proper place, inshallah ta'ala. ذكر حسين الباعث له على رقية. So Hussein, he mentioned that which led him to perform ruqya upon himself. He says, and it is the narration, لا رقية إلا من عين أو حمة. There's no ruqya except from al-ayn, the evil eye, or al-huma. والعين يراد بها ما تؤثره العين المؤذية في بدن الإنسان أو أعضائه. What is intended by al-ayn, the evil eye, it is that which the evil eye, that harmful evil eye afflicts a person with within their body or some of their body parts. And al-huma, it is al-lasa al-hasil min dawatism. It is that stinging or the biting that takes by way of animals. Or min hayyan, whether it is a snake or an aqrab or a scorpion or other than them. Any animal that contains poison and can poison someone. Its bite is called, as you mentioned earlier, al-ladghah. Here, as it will come in this narration that was cited by Hussein, al-huma. Now, he mentions that وَإِنْ كَانُوا يُطْلِقُونَهُ عَلَى لَسْعَ الْأَقْرَبِ. He says, even though the Arabs, they typically explain it to be the stinging of the scorpion, however, the term itself, in reality, is general. It is general. نعم. وإذا نظرنا إلى ما استدل به الحسين وهو قول حديث حدثنا بريرة ابن حسيب. He says, but when we look at and examine the narration which Hussein utilized as proof, which is a statement, a narration that Burayda ibn Husayb narrated to us. He says it is that the hadith لا رقية إلا من عين أو همة هكذا ساقه المصنف. This is how the author himself cited the narration. This is how the author, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahaab, cited the narration. As we'll come to the narration, is that actually hadith haddathnahu al-Sha'bi, a narration that al-Sha'bi reported to us. Naam, this is what was stated by Hussein ibn Abdul Rahman. Hussein ibn Abdul Rahman. You mentioned hadith haddathanahu al-Sha'bi. Hadith that al-Sha'bi narrated to us. And then he mentioned what the al-Sha'bi narrated to you. He mentions that Burayda, he mentioned that لا رقية إلا من عين أو حمة. There's no ruqya except from the ayn or al-huma. So this narration, as it comes here, this is how the author cited it. وهذا السنيع يظهر منه الوقف. He says, when you look at it like this, then what is apparent is that the narration is mawquf. What is apparent is that the narration is mawquf, meaning that it is a statement of the Sahabi. It is a statement of the Sahabi. And that is the statement of Burayda ibn al-Husayb, the companion radiallahu anhu. Now, فَالْأَثَرُ فِيمَا يَظْهَرُ مَوْقُوفٌ عَلَى بُرَيْدَةَ. So that which is apparent, based upon the context here, is that it is a mawquf narration upon Burayda. That Burayda is the one who said it. Now, وَلَكِنْ يُجَابْ عَلَى هَذَا مِنْ وَجْهَيْنِ. But the response to this, he says, is from two angles. One, الوجه الأول يتعلق بالنص الحديث. You look at and examine the text of the hadith itself, the actual text of the hadith itself. The second angle that we're going to examine it from is في أمر خارجي. It goes outside of the text of the hadith itself, and that is the actual isnad, the actual chain of the narration, Now, فَلَا يَتَعَلَّقُ بِالنَّص الْحَدِيث. So what is connected to the text of the hadith itself, meaning the words of the hadith. And this is the anatomy of a hadith. It has two basic parts. You have the matan, or the nas of the hadith, and you have the isnad, which is how a hadith is constructed, the chain of narration. Now, and so we're going to look at and examine it from the matan, or the nas of the hadith itself, the text of the hadith itself, the words that the hadith contains. Now, he says that as for what is connected to the text of the hadith, that this kalam, yani what is mentioned in it, la ruqya illa min ayn, to the end of the narration, there's no ruqya except from the ayn or huma. He says, هذا لا يقال من قبيل الرأي ولا الاجتهاد. That something like this cannot be said from the standpoint of opinion, nor personal ijtihad. And a companion come along and say something like from his own opinion or his personal ijtihad. إنه تطبب, a type of prophetic method, يعني وتطبب المتعلقة بالرقية, and يعني utilizing ruqya as a means of treatment. This is something which يعني cannot be done except by way of a nas, except by way of a text from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imma lafzan, either he verbalized or he actually did it. Either the Prophet verbalized it or he actually did it. This is something that's going to come later in this proper place as well. This is the first standpoint. If you look at what the hadith itself contains, it contains something established earlier. All of them are trustworthy. All of the Sahaba are trustworthy. Now, so a companion will not just make something like this up. So when you have to narrate this, it's not correct narration. And the Sahaba says something like this, which can only have come from the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. So either he had to have heard it from him directly or saw him do it. Then it takes the ruling of Rafa. It takes the ruling of Rafa. And we're going to see shortly from the second standpoint, which is the isnad itself. As for the second standpoint, وهو أمر خارجي, it goes outside of the text of the hadith. It is connected to the isnad of the hadith, the chain of narration itself. فإن الحديث وصله مرفوعا ابن ماجه. For this narration, Ibn Majah, he narrates it with a connected chain, meaning he narrates it and the Sahaba or the Sahabi mentions that he heard it directly from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, from Buraidah, who narrated it from the Prophet. This is how it comes with Ibn Majah, from Buraidah, who narrated it from the Prophet. And likewise, Ahmed and Abu Dawood and At-Tamimi, likewise, they narrated it with a connected chain of narration from Imran ibn Hussein, another well-known companion. فزال الإشكال. So therefore, the ishkal is removed. The ishkal is removed. It's not considered to be mawquf. It's not considered to be mawquf. Even though the author himself, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahaab, as it comes in his book, he cited it with apparent waqf. There is apparent waqf the way that the author cited it. But what is correct is that the hadith scholars, they cite the narration with a connected chain, with the companion mentioning that he heard it from the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam. فَتَحَصَّلَ لَدَيْنَا أَنَّ هَذَا حَدِيثٌ مَرْفُوعٌ. So what is apparent to us is that this hadith, it is marfu'. It is marfu'. It is a connected, or it is a hadith that is directly from the Prophet alayhi wasallam. وَلَيْسَ مَوْقُوفًا. It is not mawquf. كَمَا يُتَوَحَّمْ مِنْ سَنِيعِ الْمُصَنَّفِ. It is not mawquf as one would erroneously think from the action of the author. ومصنف وثال من أهل العلم أحيانا يستعملون إشارات. He said that the author and his likes from the people of knowledge at times you may find in their writings they utilize isharat. They may make an allusion towards a text, and they want you to focus upon the istidlal, and what is being proved by way of that text, more so than focusing upon its ruling and so on and so forth, right? Now, and so the intent is that al-bahith, yani that the bahith, the one who's doing research, stop at the reality of the affair. You look at the ruling of the hadith and what, excuse me, what the hadith actually contains from benefit and what it points to and indicates, rather than all of the particulars of the hadith itself. وقد وقفنا وأوقفنا القراء, and we have stopped there, and we likewise have stopped the readers there as well. ولله الحمد. وفي قول سعيد بن جبير, in the statement of Sa'id ibn Jubair, where he mentions, and Sa'id rather, he is from the Kibar, he is from the senior students of Ibn Abbas. Sa'id ibn Jubair from the senior students of Ibn Abbas in Medina. Sa'id ibn Jubair said, وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ مَنْ انْتَهَى إِلَى مَا سَمِعَ, that whoever stops at what he has heard has done well. هذا يتضمن أن المرء إذا استفرغ وسعه وعمل بما بلغه من الأثر لا تثريب عليه. That if an individual were to he were to stop at that which has reached him from narrations without going any further than that, then this is something which is not considered to be a defect. He has not done something wrong. He has not done something wrong. I mean, a narration reached him. He stopped there at the narration. He didn't go any further. He didn't go and do more research beyond that, but rather he stopped at the narration that reached him. Then a person does that, then how can they be considered blameworthy? How can they be considered blameworthy? Now, وَإِنْ كَانَ خَطَأ, even if he is errant, even if he made a mistake, even if he is wrong in what he's doing, he has a narration to support it. How can we criticize him and blame him? We may tell him that he's wrong. Okay, you're erroneous in your standpoint that you've taken based upon that narration. But you had a narration to support what you're saying and what you're doing, so I'm not going to be too difficult upon you. I'm not going to criticize you and blame you for acting on a narration. Why would I do that? Right? He says, وَإِنْ كَانَ خَطَأً, even if he is errant, even if he made a mistake. فَإِنَّ النَّاسَ حَيَالْ هَذَا الْأَمْرِ ثَلَاثَةُ أَصْنَافٍ. So as it relates to this issue, the people are of three categories, three types. The first of them, sinfun jahilun laysa indahu ilm. You have the first type are the ignorant people. They have no knowledge whatsoever. وَهَذَا عَلَى خَطَرٍ. The one who is like this is in danger because he is acting without knowledge. The second category of people, sinfun la ya'malu bi'ilmihi. One who knows he has knowledge, but he is not acting upon his knowledge. He is not acting upon what he knows to be correct. This individual as well is in khatar. He is in danger. And the third category, and this is the balanced and most correct of the three, هو الذي يعمل بما بلغه من العلم. He is the one who acts upon what has reached him of knowledge. He is the one that acts upon what has reached him of knowledge. He says, وَهَذَا دَائِرٌ بَيْنَ الْأَجْرِ وَالْأَجْرَيْنِ. And the one who does this, he is rotating between either having one reward or two. He's either going to have one reward or two, inshallah ta'ala. For if he is correct in acting upon that narration, he will attain two rewards. When أخطأ نال أجرا وأجر اجتهاده. And if he is errant or incorrect, then he will at least attain the reward of his efforts and his hard work to arrive at what is correct. Now, as you mentioned, we're going to read the second portion of the narration, but we're going to take its explanation in the next class. But the second half of the narration mentions Qala Sa'id, that Sa'id said, meaning after Sa'id told him that the one who stops at what has been narrated to him has acted correctly. Sa'id then said, Walakin, however, حدثنا ابن عباس. Ibn Abbas narrated to us عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, from the Prophet عليه الصلاة, that he said, أُرِدَتْ عَلَيَّ الْأُمَمْ. The nations were presented to me. فَرَأَيْتُ النَّبِيِّ وَمَعَهُ الرَّهْطِ. I saw a prophet having a rahat along with him, and a rahat is a group somewhere between 9 and 11 persons. He had a small group consisting of 9 to 11 people. Some say 9 to 13. وَالنَّبِيُّ وَمَعَهُ رَجُلٌ أو رَجُلُ أو رَجُلَانِ. And I saw a prophet having along with him 1 or 2 men. وَالنَّبِيَّ وَلَيْسَ مَعَهُ أَحَدٌ. And I saw another prophet, he had no one along with him. إِذْ رُفِعَ لِي سَوَادٌ عَظِيمٌ. Then thereafter I saw a large group. فَظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُمْ أُمَّتِي. And I thought that they were my ummah. فَقِيلَ لِي هَذَا مُوسَى وَقَوْمُهُ. It was said to me, this is Musa and the people of Musa, his ummah. وَنَظَرْتُ فَإِذَا سَوَادٌ عَظِيمٌ. I looked again and I saw another even larger group. فَقِيلَ لِي هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكَ. It was said to me, this is your ummah. وَمَعَهُمْ 70 أَلْفًا يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ وَلَا عَذَابٍ. And they will have along with them 70,000 people who will enter paradise without any reckoning nor any punishment. ثُمَّ نَهَضَ فَدَخَلَ مَنْزِلَهُ. Thereafter the Prophet ﷺ got up and he entered his home. فَخَاضَ النَّاسُ فِي أُولَٰئِكَ. The people began to discuss these 70,000. فقال بعضهم, some of them said, فَعَلَّهُمْ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ الَّذِينَ صَحِبُوا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. Perhaps they are those who accompanied the Messenger of Allah عليه وسلم, they were his companions. فقال بعضهم, others amongst them said, فَلَعَلَّهُمْ الَّذِينَ وُلِدُوا فِي الإسلام. Perhaps they are those who were born into Islam, فَلَمْ يُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. And thus they have never made shirk with Allah Ta'ala in their life. وَذَكَرُوا أَشْيَاءَ. And they mentioned other opinions of theirs. فَخَرَجَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. So the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام came out. وَأَخْبَرُوهُ. And they informed him of what they were discussing. فقال, he said, هُمُ الَّذِينَ لَا يَسْتَرْقُونَ. They are those who do not seek ruqya to be done upon them, and they don't use cauterization. ولا يتطيرون. And they don't make tiyara. This tiyara, it has different meanings. Amongst its meanings is looking at the flight, examining the flight patterns of birds, and taking an evil or good omen by way of that. They don't do any of that. وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. And they place their trust upon their Lord. فَقَامَ عُكَاشَ بْنُ مُحْصَنٍ. So Ukash ibn Muhsan stood up and he said, أُدْعُ اللَّهَ أَنْ يَجْعَلَنِي مِنْهُمْ. O Messenger of Allah, supplicate to Allah to make me amongst them. قَالَ أَنْتَ مِنْهُمْ. He said, you are amongst them. ثُمَّ قَامَ رَجُلٌ آخَرَ. Then another man stood up and he said, أُدْعُ اللَّهَ أَنْ يَجْعَلَنِي مِنْهُمْ. Make dua to Allah that he make me to be from them as well. قَالَ سَبَقَكَ بِهَا Ukasha. He said, Ukasha has beaten you to it. So this portion of the narration, and Shaykh Ubaid says, هذا هو الحديث الثاني. This is the second hadith that is a completer to the story. It is completed to the story that we mentioned earlier. وممكن أن يكون حديثا ثالثا. It is possible that we look at it to be a third narration. لأن قصة الحسين, because the story of Hussein, it contains within it an athar and a hadith. When you look at it and examine it, it contains an athar, and within the athar you have mention of a hadith. That will be 2 narrations. And this therefore would be what? The third. This would be the third. Now, if we look at it this way, وَمَنْ عَدَّهَا حَدِيثَيْنِ نَظَرَ إِلَى حَدِيث بُرَيْدَةَ وَهَذَا الْحَدِيث. And whoever considers it to be 2 narrations, they look at the hadith of Burayda that we mentioned earlier, and then they look at this portion and they consider that to be, or these to be, the 2 hadiths. Now, without examining the lead up, without looking at the lead up. Now, he says, but as it relates to this issue, the issue is vast. It's not something which is too much of a big deal, whether we consider it 3, whether we consider it 2, or what have you. There's no harm in that either way, in light of hadith terminology. Allah Ta'ala knows best. We'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, as we mentioned. We're going to explain this portion in the next lesson. Allah knows best. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
جزاكم الله خيرا يا أستاذ الفاضل for taking time off your busy schedules to attend to your brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and preserve you upon goodness. جزاكم الله خير ونفع بكم. Hopefully to see you next time inshallah. أستودعكم الله الذي لا تضيع ودائعه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.